And good afternoon. Welcome to KelownaNow Live. Jason Mann with Jim Chuck, and our special guest this afternoon is Rochelle Stevenson. She is a professor at Thompson River University in the Environment, Culture, and Society Department with a focus on criminality, I gather. Is that correct?
Yes, that
Welcome
is
to
correct.
KelownaNow.
Thanks. It's great to
And
be here.
Kamloops now,
And
for that
Kamloops
matter.
now,
There you
yes.
go.
Yeah.
Maybe you sent a press release out. Maybe just tell us a little bit about this study, and what it was based in, how long it took, and what the findings were.
Well, the study is still ongoing, actually, so we're right kind of smack in the middle of it. So this is a partnership between myself and the Kamloops Sexual Assault Counseling Center, who offers gender-based violence supports in the Kamloops area. And so they had this idea, this great idea, to research sexual harassment specifically in the hospitality industry, so restaurants, recognizing that this is a growing concern and it's one that's not often looked at. So they came to me and we developed a partnership and decided that we wanted to investigate this within Kamloops. And so we've started our research project that way.
When you say it's a growing concern, what's fueling the growth in your estimation?
I think it's really just more awareness around gender-based violence and sexual harassment. We recognize that the restaurant or hospitality industry specifically is a bit of a sexualized culture, and sometimes the jokes are kind of taken as part of the job or just par for the course, and we disagree. We think that that's not really something that any employee should have to deal with.
So obviously this is a sensitive topic for many people. So how hard was it to gather information from some of the people that are feeling the effects of it? And then are you talking to some of the restaurant owners as well, or?
Well, that's a great question. So we are progressing this project in 3 phases. So we've already completed our first phase, which is where we called all of the restaurants in Kamloops, and we talked to the owners or managers, and we asked them if they had a sexual harassment policy and if there was a complaint process and what that looked like. What we actually did find is that a good proportion of restaurants do have a sexual harassment policy, which was great. It was really reassuring. But there was about almost 30% of restaurants that did not have any sort of harassment or sexual harassment policy. And so we recognized that was room for opportunity for growth and training. So the second phase of our project is what we're in right now, and that's where we have an anonymous survey that we're distributing for all employees, restaurant and hospitality staff in Kamloops specifically, around sexual harassment, what those experiences look like, as well as maybe behaviors that they have themselves done or have witnessed happening to others.
Now, when you say when you say you talk to all the restaurants, are you talking all the way from the fast food chains all the way up to the more elegant dining kind of establishments? And I would imagine that the fast food chains probably have policies put in place, right?
Well, we talked to all of the restaurants and we didn't discriminate based on, for example, kind of style of service. So we talked to coffee shops, fast food restaurants, pubs, family restaurants, fine dining. We also tried to reach out to catering companies, food trucks. So try and gather everyone. We did not see a specific difference between the policy, the kind of restaurant that had a policy and the kinds of restaurants that didn't, which was really interesting to us.
Were any of the results a surprise to you?
Yes, actually, from our first phase, there was a bit of a surprise. We informally asked our managers and owners why they didn't have a policy, or if it was offered to us as part of our conversation. There was a variety of reasons offered, such as, well, we've never needed one before, or we only hire high school students, or we only hire women, or we only hire family. And so that indicates to us that, again, there's an education opportunity there and a bit of a misconception around what sexual harassment is and who engages in it.
So sexual harassment in the hospitality industry can both come from people working there, the managers and stuff like that. They're the people they report to, including other staff members, but also from customers, I take it, though.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're trying to do with our second phase, and it leads in really nicely to our survey for employees, is recognizing that sexual harassment can happen between a number of different relationships within the industry. So between coworkers, for example, between managers and employees, between patrons and staff. But also, if we're thinking about different areas of the restaurant, much of the research to date has been focused on front of house or customer facing roles. So servers, bartenders, and their experiences being harassed by clients or patrons.
Hmm.
What we're really interested in and what we're trying to encourage from our survey is folks who work in the back of the house or the non-customer facing roles. So folks that work in the kitchen, behind the line, the dishwasher, food prep, that kind of thing. Because you recognize that it happens across the board, and we're really looking to get a more fulsome understanding of what that experience looks like.
So is part of this study also to provide information to staff members that there is a mechanism in place where they can report or find some resolution to if they're feeling that they're harassed in the workplace?
Well, one of the questions that we have on our survey is there a sexual harassment policy in your workplace? And how is this communicated to you? Because there might be a sexual harassment policy, but if the staff don't know about it, then that represents a gap. And the other part is understanding what might be happening at individual restaurants. We're not asking specifically for restaurant names. The survey is anonymous. But if there's policies that are in place or reporting processes or complaint processes that are unclear, that also represents an opportunity for education and intervention to better support staff members.
Is there resources in place for small independent restaurants? I take it that some of the chains, the Starbucks and McDonald's and that and Wendy's would have resources and legal teams and all that kind of stuff and HR teams. Whereas like the small mom and pop restaurants maybe don't have, like the ones that say they only hire family wouldn't have as much resources. Is there somewhere they can turn for that?
Well, that's also one of the things that we're looking at coming up with from this project is a couple of template policies that restaurants can pick up and use depending on what their business model is. That might include a complaint process or a reporting process that they can just pick up and apply, recognizing that, let's face it, restaurant margins are pretty slim and there's not a lot of money. And so the better resources that we can provide, certainly from our side and our research, for some of our restaurants, the more safe everyone would be. And that's one of the desired outcomes of our research project.
I know that it's obviously not limited to new employees in the space, but I have a couple of questions, I guess. One is it found, or is there an idea that this is, I guess, more prevalent in the restaurant industry than other industries? A, and then B, I guess the other thing, is it linked to a lack of professionalism due to a lot of these being first-time jobs for people? Yeah, just wondering if there's undercurrents to it other than what we've talked about so far.
Sure. Yeah, so just to kind of draw on, is it more prevalent in the restaurant industry? So in Statistics Canada did a survey, the survey on sexual misconduct at work in 2020. And what they found was 47% of employees across all industries had experienced sexual harassment of some kind in the workplace. Other studies focusing specifically on the hospitality industry have found that 90% of women and 70% of men in the restaurant industry have experienced sexual harassment. So it's not a small number, and it is very
Mm.
prevalent. There's a couple of factors that that research has suggested contribute to this. So the presence of alcohol in the workplace, um, certainly the notion of gratuities, so tips, right, has also contributed to this notion of feeling sometimes, and again, some research has indicated this, that feeling that there's a degree of liberty to behaving that way with, for example, a server or a bartender. What we haven't found is that this is related to, for example, other really young folks or their first time in a job. We don't have that information yet. We are asking, for example, our participants in the survey if this is their first job in the restaurant industry, hoping to understand a little bit more about how this is affecting them, and how it might affect them in the future.
So I guess my biggest question is, why did you take on this study? Like what kind of like wanted you to do this in the first place?
Well, my research, as we mentioned kind of at the beginning, is criminology, and my focus is gender-based violence. And so when Kamloops Sexual Assault Counseling Center approached me, it was a really good fit in terms of trying to engage in prevention efforts and address some of the root causes of gender-based violence. And so that could be attitudes and kind of the sexualized culture in hospitality. And so what we're really hoping to get out of this is right, so kind of some of those boilerplate policies for restaurants to help support the owners and managers on that side, but also recognizing that there are opportunities for training and education. And so our goal in partnership with the Sexual Assault Counseling Center is to put together a series of very short training videos and education videos, so maximum 10 minutes, that, for example, a staff member can view at the beginning of a shift or can be viewed in a staff meeting, that doesn't take up a lot of time, targets a really specific element of sexual harassment, and also doesn't take up a lot of labor time, recognizing that, again, margins are pretty slim in restaurants. So we're trying to walk a balance between supporting the restaurants and creating a positive, violence-free work environment, and recognizing that there's a financial cost sometimes to doing that.
And then sometimes in restaurants, the staffing level is not, is like you don't have many levels of authority likely, and it could be your main report is the one that's part of the problem. So what do they do in that case if the person that they're having the problem with is the person that is the one that's taking in the complaint?
And that is a really good point. And that's why sometimes what we're thinking about is again, that policy and those different reporting structures. But that's also where the supports from Kamloops Sexual Assault Counseling Center can come into play, is that recognizing that they support all survivors and all folks who are experiencing gender-based violence. And they can provide excellent advice on next steps, who to report to, and supporting that person in moving forward in whatever way feels safe for them.
Did they feel like a change in the environment that they came to you? Is there just something that it was an issue that just needs to finally get tackled in a different way?
I think it's really just more of an issue that's coming to the fore a little bit more in terms of our attention to it. Not that it's happening necessarily more or less, but certainly just we're being more aware of what's happening in the depth of the problem. And so trying to tackle that and putting in place more supports for our survivors on the part of counseling services, but also that training and education piece in terms of our prevention efforts.
Does it go as deep as like, I know like some restaurants have like a dress code, or some restaurants ask girls to wear, like different clothing than they ask the men to wear? Does it go that deep, or is it not go there?
Are you talking about the survey?
Yeah, just in
or the
general.
problem?
Yeah, the problem for sure, because we know there's a few restaurants out there, like a Hooters would be one that's a very popularized one. I think it's in Canada as well, where the girls are told what they have to wear and stuff like that.
I think that certainly the sexualization and the overt sexualization of a uniform contributes to the problem. I think that that's been proven out with a variety of different spaces, not necessarily just in restaurant. That is actually one of the questions that we have on our survey for our staff is there a dress code, and does this dress code differ between the male employees and the female employees? Trying to get a gauge on if that impacts the experiencing of sexual harassment and also the perpetration and witnessing of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Certainly helps set the table, doesn't it?
Set the table. Great pun.
I was just going to say, wow, he's punny today. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to get out that you'd like to share right now?
Just that we would really encourage our Kamloops folks, because this is specifically for Kamloops at this point. If you see the poster around town, or you see a little card on the billfold, please take the survey. We're really looking for a variety of different opinions and different perspectives. And it doesn't matter whether you work in the front of house or back of house, that we're really interested in hearing from you.
So that's an online survey. Take it with a link, something in the poster, a QR code. Or,
yeah, it's an online survey.
Yeah, we'll put the link into the story for sure.
Sure. We also do have a really quick, just one-page website if folks want to go there. So it's shkamloops.trubox, so trubox.ca, and they can go there and we can pop the link to the chat. That would be great.
And if I'm following correctly, you're currently in stage 2 or phase 2 of the study? And then
phase 2 of the study.
Yeah. And so then what's the timing for stage 3? What's it include? And then for wrap up and final results?
So we're in the middle of stage 2, as we mentioned. So we're collecting survey data right now. And we are looking at phase 3, which is in-depth interviews with folks who are willing to talk to us about their experiences, maybe how they keep themselves safe, what those reporting processes might look like or not look like, and how they handled their experience of sexual harassment in the restaurant workplace, whether it's some of those informal safety processes like finding a new job or calling in sick on a more regular basis when the person who's harassing them is working, for example, just to name 2.
And when do you see the whole project coming to a culmination?
We're hoping to have the project done by August 2024. And so we're hoping to start our interviews in the spring of 2024 and have it all wrapped up by August.
All right.
Well, thank you, Rochelle, for spending time with us today. And we'll try
Thank
to
you very
help
much
you
for
get the
having
word
me.
out. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Marcy will send you a link to everything too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
All right. Rochelle Stevenson, professor of the Department of Environment, Culture, and Society at Thompson River University, joining us today. So
we'll put the link in the story.
Yeah.
And then if you're in the Kamloops area and you're working in that industry, take the survey.
Great. I think it's of interest to
until the
community
4
as well.
o'clock news.
Until
We'll see you
then.
to then.
All righty.